Happy Father's Day and happy Juneteenth weekend. Today we celebrate freedom, peace, and love. And in today's gospel, we have a familiar story of Jesus being woken from an evening nap in a boat as it crosses the Sea of Galilee in a storm. Jesus stands up and calms the waves and rebukes them, and then condemns the apostles for their lack of faith. But there is much left out of this simplified version. First, those of us in the United States in the 21st century do not have a good sense of the events. The boat Jesus was in is described in a manner that implies that it was a typical fishing boat that would have been used on the Sea of Galilee in this era. It would have been about 26 feet long and 8 feet wide, with a sail and oars in case the winds died out. Without any fish, there would have been room for 12 to 15 people, but typically it only held 2 to 5 because the rest of the space was used to stow nets, other fishing gear, and the fish. The stern, where Jesus laid down for his nap, was where the fish and gear were stowed. Now, the Sea of Galilee is roughly the size of Oneida Lake near Syracuse. It is much, much smaller than Lake Erie or any of the other Great Lakes. But like the Great Lakes, the Sea of Galilee is prone to sudden, violent storms which can batter and destroy boats caught out in them. Second, we frequently do not really read this passage. We have in our minds that Jesus traveled with the 12 apostles, and that is it. But the passage makes clear there were other boats with him. In other words, a small convoy had gone out with Jesus. More than likely, there were men in each of the boats, but also women and children as well. Entire families had taken to following Jesus, and they had followed him out into the waters of the Sea of Galilee after he had spent hours preaching parables from just offshore. They were crowded into these boats, and if the storms did not calm, then not only would the men be lost at sea, but their wives and children would drown as well. In this moment, the entire Jesus movement, Christianity before Christianity, was at risk. If these boats went down, all would have been lost. Finally, when Jesus tells the disciples to set sail for the other side, he was not merely telling them to set sail across the waves. He was telling them to sail from the Jewish lands of Galilee into Gentile territory, to lands that were seen as hostile to the Jewish people, lands where practicing their religion could end in execution, torture, and enslavement if some leader felt the need to make an example of them or to distract the populace from his own incompetence in the face of a natural or man-made disaster. And it was territory that was seen as hostile to the one God, the God of true freedom, love, and peace. The people of these lands worshipped foreign gods, the Roman gods, including the emperor, but also older gods, the gods of the Greeks, the Babylonians, the Persians, and even the Canaanites. And in amongst the old gods, the gods of the sea of the Canaanites were the sea gods, demonic monsters, evil spirits that lived in the Sea of Galilee, and who, when stirred up against the people, would swamp ships and destroy families. So not only had Jesus asked his followers to take him into a foreign land and hostile land, he had asked them to cross over the territory of hostile and foreign deities to do it. That the sea would be stirred up against him and his disciples' boats, and that his disciples' boats would be almost sunken as a result, should therefore not come as a surprise. This is a story of not just miraculous power against the forces of nature, but it is one in a series of stories of exorcism of false gods and the pain, suffering, and discord that these demonic beings would cause. Before Jesus can win over the hearts of the foreign people to the one God, he must first battle their false gods. Up until this point, Jesus had cast out minor demons who had possessed individuals. But now he is pitted against the ancient gods of the Canaanites and a prolonged great battle would be anticipated for even the greatest prophet or miracle worker of ancient Judea. Instead, Jesus simply says, "Peace, be still." With just a few words, Jesus defeats the ancient evil that had destroyed so many lives and saves the disciples and their families. But more than that, those words, Jesus opens the way to true freedom, peace, and love to those on the other side of the sea. What in one moment seems like an existential crisis for the Jesus movement becomes instead a minor inconvenience on the way to its spread. It is no wonder that the apostles and the disciples were left wondering what all of this meant. When we follow Jesus, when we follow the way of freedom, peace, and love, the impossible becomes possible. What once seemed insurmountable odds against us becomes little more than an inconvenience, and the values of this world of wealth, security, and power are laid bare as the lies they are. In Jesus, in the one God, lies true freedom, love, and peace, which brings a better world, a better life for all. Amen.